Hey, good morning guys. Coming at you for a little congruence and midpoint. Okay, congruence, midpoint today. You've seen these congruence marks. This shows up a lot. Let's say you've got a line segment right here, and just next to it you have another line segment. Now these two segments are the exact same length, but you've got to show some marks, you've got to put some drawings on there that indicate they're the same length. So you have these little congruence marks, like a little 2/ here, 2/ there. If you haven't seen it, they're called congruence marks. And what it does is it shows this segment, that segment, they're the exact same length. And what you'll see sometimes are just triangles. We'll do this a lot. If you have one triangle and then a second triangle, and these two triangles are exactly the same, then you can indicate it, oh, okay, this left side, 1/1/, they're congruent to each other. Maybe a double here, double there. So the two right sides are equal to each other. And then you got along the base. So along the base, congruent, congruent to each other. So you see these congruence marks to indicate this segment, that segment, the exact same length. So congruence marks, we got that rolling for us. And then the other part of today, you've got midpoint going on. So let's say we've got number 2, let's say we're doing midpoint. You have this line segment running from A to B. You've got this line segment. The midpoint is exactly right in the dead center middle of the segment. We can use point M for midpoint. And what the midpoint does, it splits it into two equal parts. So you have A to M and B to M, these are exactly the same. So with congruence marks, you can indicate that. You can show that, oh, okay, AM is the same length as BM, and these two equal to each other. So they do it with line segments. The other thing that happens in our book is they run some segment bisectors. So you may have this, segment bisector. So we've still got our line segment. Let's say we got C to D this time. But what they'll do on some of the problems, instead of just putting a point right in for the dead center, they'll intersect it with a line right here, and they'll call this line is a bisector of the segment bisector. So you'll see sometimes we'll put some letters. Let's still use M for the middle. But how about we've got EF? So what EF does is EF, it bisects segment CD. So again, M's your dead center, M is your midpoint, this, that, exact same length. So they call it a segment bisector, it indicates the midpoint, cuts it right into two equal parts. All right, so from here, they throw some algebra problems at you. So let's get a little bit of a setup for an algebra problem. All right, here we go. How about HJ, and again, we'll cut it, segment bisector, M right in the middle. So how you run an algebra problem of this is say you get, oh, this part, 5x plus 5. The other side, we've got 3x plus 19. So a segment bisector hits your midpoint. You've got an algebra expression here and on the other side. What we do know is that this and that, H to M and J to M, they're equal to each other. So when you go to write this algebra equation, like how do I set this up, how do I start the problem, you can run it this way. You can take 5x plus 5, set it equal to 3x plus 19. So geometry, boom, hit by midpoint. Algebra time next. We know how to do this. We're going to get our x's together. So we'll grab this 3x, we'll get him with the other 5x. So we run him over. 3x was positive, moves to this side, becomes negative. Don't forget to change your sign. Then we get the 5 over. and it was a positive 5, but remember when you move it across the equal sign, it changes values. So the positive 5 becomes a negative 5. We're doing great. We've got x's together. We've got numbers together. This is going to be giving 2x. There's 14. So we just got to take 14 divided by 2. Let's move this up. And x is equal to 7. Hopefully you can see that. If not, maybe we can put it in over here. X equals 7. And best part about these algebra problems is you're feeling great. You got an answer, x equals 7, but that's not where you want to stop. You still got to plug it in. Still got to plug it in. So we'll run back and we'll plug these guys in. And get our two lengths right here. So 5 times 7 plus 5, 3 times 7 plus 19. Now if we've done it right, whatever this turns out to be should be exactly the same over here. So if we're doing some math here, 35 plus 5, that gives me a length of 40. This is 21 plus 19, that gives me a length of 40. So our two values, HM, JM, both turn out to be 40. So, midpoint problems today, algebra problems today. Okay, more stuff on midpoint when we can do some coordinates. Let's do some coordinates. So your midpoint formula, it's going to look kind of complicated, but once we do a couple of these, it won't be so bad. All right, let me give you the crazy looking formula. Crazy looking formula. We take an x1 plus an x2, and we're dividing that by 2. And then we have a y1 and a y2 that we're dividing by 2. I know, it looks bad. But once we do one of these, you'll be like, oh, that's all it is? So you're just going to add up a couple numbers, divide by 2. Add up a couple numbers, divide by 2. That's what's in front of us. I think we can handle it. All right, let's do one. So if we're finding midpoint, what are we on here, number 6? So we got 3 and 10. Oh, that was negative 10. And then our second one is 5, negative 2. So this is how it's going to look on the assignment. They're going to give you one endpoint and a second endpoint, and we're going to find the midpoint of those. So these are your two endpoints. We're going to find the point right in the middle. I always label them up. So every ordered pair is made up of an x coordinate and a y coordinate. So x comes first, y comes second. X comes first, y comes second. X coordinate, y coordinate. Now this is my first x and y, so I label this x1, y1. First x, first y. This is my second ordered pair, so here's x2, y2. So first one, x1, y1. Second one, x2, y2. Now I have my formula, takes the two x's and adds them together, and the two y's, and adds those together, and then we come back and divide by 2. So let's just plug them in, x1 and x2. So here's your two x's. This is 3 plus 5 divided by 2. And then you got your two y values, negative 10 and negative 2. Negative 10 plus negative 2 divided by 2. So we've got a little bit of math in front of us. Move this up here where we can get to it. 3 plus 5 divided by 2. Negative 10, negative 2 divided by 2. All right, so now we've got up here where we can reach it, see it. We got 3 plus 5, that's 8 divided by 2. Negative 12 divided by 2. Getting our two answers. Here's this one's 4, this one's 6. So when you go to write your midpoint, you're going to write it as an ordered pair. So it's got to have the parentheses, the comma in the middle, the closed parentheses. Your first answer for x is a 4. Second answer, negative 6. So your midpoint, 4, negative 6. So it looks bad, but then when you actually do the problem, you're like, oh, add up a couple numbers, divide by 2, add up a couple numbers, divide by 2, answer. That's all it is to find the midpoint. Let's do one more, practice one, to make sure we've got this. All right, I think this is number 7. And you know how your textbook is. We got to get a fraction in there. Let's go -4, 0. And 6 and 11. So again, let's label everything perfectly correctly. You've got x coordinate, y coordinate. You have x coordinate, y coordinate. X coordinate, y coordinate, x coordinate, y coordinate. So here we go, x1, y1, x2, y2. First x, first y, x1, y1. Second x, second y, x2, y2. Now remember, your formula takes the x's and adds them together, takes the y's and adds them together. X's together, y's together. And then we're just dropping them in. The -4 and the 6. That divided by 2. The 0 and the 11. And that divided by 2. Okay? I'm going to move it up here where you guys can see it a little bit. And here we go. Add them up. That's just going to be 2 divided by 2. This will be 11 divided by 2. Now, 2 divided by 2 you can simplify. Oh yeah, that's just 1. But 11 divided by 2 doesn't divide, so you're just stuck with a fraction. But you know how math books are. They love the fractions. So we can run that with our final answer. So as an ordered pair, you've got your x coordinates first, your y coordinates second. So this would represent what your midpoint is. So there's your midpoint. Okay, this video helpful to you, gives explanation. So when you're trying to take down those problems, I think that's going to be on page 24, those problems. What do we have? 7 through 10, 15 through 18. So these examples will get you for this assignment. All right, guys, there you go. Midpoint.